Greetings to all. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rudra Upadhyay, and today's my presentation topic is John Keats' use of mythology and classical allusions in his poetry. So let's begin. These are my academic information, and this is table of content which I'm going to discuss today. For this presentation, my research question is, how does John Keats' use of mythology and classical allusions enhance the thematic depth and philosophical expression in his poetry? Hypothesis would be Keats' adaptation and reimagining of classical myths enable a personalized poetic vision that blends traditional mythical narratives with romantic individualism. So meet our John Keats, one of the major second generation romantic poet. He was deeply fascinated with Greek art, myth, and culture. For Keats, classical mythology was not just an ornamental or decorative object. Rather, it serves as a structural and thematic tool in his poetry. Because John Keats was influenced by three things. First is Lemperier's classical dictionary. Second is Champman's Homer, which is basically a translation of Iliad by Champman. And third is Elgin's marble, which are basically Greek sculptures. So, why John Keats uses so much references of mythology in his poetry? Because mythology offers Keats a framework to express universal human experience and emotion. And also, it blending personal vision with classical heritage. That's why he uses myth. One of the famous researchers, Sengupt, wrote in his article that Keats adapted and reimagined classic myth, sometimes merging tradition and inventing variations. His poetic myth making was instinctive and personal. The poets and the mythic hero uh, often merge also, and myth become a vehicle to explore some ideas like love, death, rebirth, and beauty for kids. Now, Hellenism. What is Hellenism? Simple Hellenism is basically things basically related to Greek ideals, art, myth, and beauty into literature. And for John Keats, he uses myth to symbolize things like beauty, imagination, and art as eternal versus life's mutability. P.B. Shelley called famously him as an essential Greek because he so much used Greek mythological references in his poetry. Now, some of mythological poems overview of John Keats. There are so many poems written by Keats, those who have been described the elements of Greek mythology and classical allusions. But some poetry are particularly based on the Greek mythological story itself, like Endymion, which is based fully on Greek goddess Cynthia and tells the story of a shepherd which is fallen in love with Cynthia. Second one is Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, which is two poems written on a specific subject of a titan named Hyperion. He was among the 12 titans in Greek mythology, and he was god of heavenly light. In these two poetry, Keats described that how fall of Hyperion was happened. Then also the Ode to Psyche, which is also imagination of Keats for Psyche, which is neglected goddess. And so Keats a creative philosophical lens in his poetry cause he wanted to describe mythological element purely. Then now mythic motifs and symbols. First, great goddesses. In all Keats' poetry, goddesses would appear as a form of inspiration and also representing creation and destruction. Then Apollo, god of poetry, light, beauty, symbolize artistic integrity. Then elements like earth, water, air, and fire also connected mortal and immortal, symbolized change, life, and poetic spirit. Also, immortality, all his poetry symbolized. Then rebirth and transformation also reflected all in all Keats' poetry. Now, I have selected three main examples for analysis of Keats' poetry in mythological illusion. So, first is Ode to Psyche. Revisit Keats, revisit the myth of Cupid and Psyche in this ode. And Keats not just only worship Psyche, but also he imagines a beautiful temple for Psyche. And theme of this ode is myth become personal religion for imagination also. Then ode to Nightingale. So in Nightingale also Lith, which is the river of forgetfulness. Then Dryden's, which are the tree spirits, and Hippocrene, which are the purely sacred mountains for muses. These three symbols of Greek mythology also portrayed in Ode to Nightingale. Then another famous example, that Ode on a Gratianer, which also symbolize a classical art and permanence. And it's here also portrayed sacrificial procession, temples, and priest ritual of Greek culture. Now, let's quickly conclude this presentation by saying John Keats internalized Greek myths into his romantic imagination and developing a distinctive form of Hellenism that fused art, beauty, imagination, and truth. Rather than merely imitating just a classical myth and stories, he transformed them and created a personal mythology that reflected his own sensibility and experience. And he also portrayed our own mythology and classical stories, which portrays an individual's feeling. Okay, so these are the references which I have used for this presentation. Okay, now, any questions from your side you would like to ask?
So, Rudra, my question is, what does God Apollo symbolizes in the Keats' poetry apart from artistic integrity?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Apollo, basically a god of poetry and sun in Greek mythology. In Keats' poetry, he symbolized artistic integrity. But apart from this, in all his poetry, Keats considered him as a personal poetic inspiration, and that's why he could wrote this all odes by inspiring by Apollo with very beautiful imagination. Now, second question.
Rudra,
Yes.
as we all know, John Keats was a poet,
Yes.
right? But if he was a novelist, what kind of novel he wrote?
Okay, amazing question. Novels would be based on obviously pessimism, because Keats' personal life, his life, he was too much struggled. So if he wrote some kind of fiction and novel, he would probably obviously portrayed mythological elements, and his novels would be based on purely mythological story which portrayed contemporary romantic life, and also giving the message of living life in individual feeling and personal expression. Okay, I hope you are satisfied with this answer. Okay, thank you so much. I'm done with this presentation. Okay, thank you.